What's going on, everybody? In today's video, we'll be upgrading our stock N54 fuel pump into a stage 2 or a stage 3 fuel pump, depending on which fuel pump you use. Now, just a quick disclaimer, this is just the way I've done it before and it worked for me. Is this the best way? Probably not, but hey, it works for me. So if you want to DIY it, here's how to do it. The first time I did this, I used the Walbro 450 pump and it worked awesome. That's considered a stage 2 pump. This time around, I'm going to be using a 535 Walbro, which is the one without a check valve. Tested out by BMP, should be fine with your stock EKP. The price for everything, if you're trying to get a 450, the pumps run around $115 on eBay. If you want to buy from Cole, 464, that's who I used before. When I purchased it like 2 years ago, it was like $100, but kind of more expensive now. The 535 goes for about $135. And then I also have the BMP adapter, which allows you to attach the Walbro pump to your stock fuel line. Makes everything 10 times easier. And that's about $30 plus shipping. So that's about the cost of everything you need. And then all the random stuff. We'll be using a soldering iron to be doing some plastic soldering. I've done that before as well. But I also got some metal brackets to try out this time, hoping those will work out pretty good. And I also got some plastic bond. So just gonna experiment a little bit. Let's dive right into this and get started. Our first step is just going to be taking a nice little video of this so we know how everything goes back together. I made the mistake of not doing that before. This pump was given to me super cheap by BMW builder, so shout out to him, so I don't have to mess with my other pump. And what we're going to do next is we're going to take off this top area. And then we're going to take off these connectors. Now these connectors are just held in by two little clips. Number one is out. This is for the actual fuel pump connection. And then number two should just come out the same way. A little stubborn. It's being a little stubborn, but got it out. That's number two. And now, last but not least, we have this little hold down clip just to make sure that these two don't separate while in the tank. We're gonna just kind of fold that in, pull that out so we could release this pump out. This is being kind of annoying, so we're just gonna kind of try to break these little tabs off and worry about it later. There you go. She was being kind of annoying, but gonna have to bend the tabs off a little bit. We got her free. This is gonna come right out. Now we just have the fuel assembly left. What we're gonna do next is we have this top piece right here, this top portion is being held down by 1 tab, 2 tab, and 3 tab right over there. There's no really good way I know how to take these off. We're just gonna kind of pry and hope for the best. We're gonna use this plastic bonder stuff to put that back together later on, and then maybe a little bit of a soldering iron to plastic weld it. But for now, just kind of do your thing and try to get this top piece off. There you go, screwdriver over here, going like that, got that one released. See if I can do that same thing on the other side here. Right over here, watch out for the fuel level sensor. Okay, right over here. This one's a little more stubborn. Oh no, that's not good. So you want to avoid that. It's just held on by some glue or something right over here, but that's okay. No worries. There you go. Got that detached. You could always plastic bond that back together. And then last but not least, we have this middle one. So let's see the best way we can get it to that. Okay, I'm gonna lift up this one. I got access to that. There you go. Yay. That was pretty easy. So, aside from me breaking my pump right here, that one's pretty smooth. You could probably learn from my mistakes and do that a little bit better. Now let's unroute these wires. This is the fuel level wiring. And unwrap those from the clips. There's that. And then for this fuel pump wiring itself, let's take it out of this little notch area. And we should be free now. Yep. Top hat just came off. We'll put that off to the side. And now we have this left. Sucks that I broke that, but no big deal. So what we're going to do now is we want to take the factory pump out of its place. And like I said, because it's attached to that Venturi, we're going to want to we got to take off this little 3-piece plastic thingamajiggy. And there's different ways of doing it. I've tried detaching it from here before. It didn't work out too well because it just kind of broke the plastic all around and it just really glued on there. So we're not going to do that. Rather, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my handy dandy Dremel. I gotta, by the way, put that in the beginning of the video. I am using a Dremel. And I think I'm just going to cut right over here, and then right over there with the Dremel. And then when putting it back together, we can either plastic weld it with our soldering iron, or I'm going to try using these brackets. Maybe hold it back in place. So I've never done that before, but we're gonna experiment a little bit, see what happens. So let's go ahead and do that. Actually, I'm just kind of experimenting, and I'm like, what if I don't have to cut this? Hope my wife doesn't watch this. I'm using some kitchen knives right now, but what I'm trying to do right now is actually move these 3 little holders away from the fuel pump, hoping I could just lift the fuel pump out so I don't have to cut this out the way. So I'm going to experiment with this a little bit. If I can get it up like that, it'll save me some cutting and it'll make the new setup a little more secure in my opinion. Yes! What? I can't believe I just figured that out. That's just going to make this job hopefully a little bit easier. Now, when I did that, the Venturi came up with it along with the fuel filter. So if I could pop those off from the bottom, I think I could just take this fuel pump out and save ourselves a lot of cutting and messing with this. This is awesome news. I'm glad I figured this out. Now I'll kind of show you how I did that towards the end. Essentially these little clips, these were tucked under. So I just kind of tucked them, the little round piece, over the lip on 1, 2, and 3 sides. Then I used a screwdriver and 2 little kitchen knives to bend them out the way. Then just grabbed it by the wire like you saw and pulled up. See if I could get this Venturi popped off. I don't know, just do one of these, I guess. Boop. Hey, the Venturi popped off. Yay. Now, the Venturi and the fuel filter popped off. Oh my god. I am super proud of myself right now. Yes. The hardest part was always putting this stuff back together because you have to glue it and mess with it. That's why I bought those brackets, but I just saved myself from doing that. Wow. Old fuel filter, the Venturi on the bottom. Let's take that out. Now this little rubber piece at the bottom of here, I keep that in just because I feel like that seals the bottom of it. So we'll clean that up later. So when we do put this in the fuel tank, the bucket will fill up and it'll kind of stay in there because this rubber piece is in there. So I just leave that alone. And like I said, I never had a problem with running out of fuel before, but awesome. So essentially what I did, I don't want to put this back in. These clips were tucked under here, and these 3 little ring things were holding the top of the fuel pump in place. So all I did was took my little screwdriver, got this over the ledge, and I pushed it back. So see it right now, it won't push back because it's in this ledge. See that? So all I did was I lifted this up a little bit and I popped it over. Kind of like that, okay? So now you see it goes over, and once it's over, it'll push out a little more. So that's how you kind of unlock these clips. I did that on all 3 sides, and you saw what I did with the knives. I just essentially pushed this out, grabbed the wire, and pulled the fuel pump out. Freaking sweet. Now we have our empty bucket. We're ready to put the new fuel pump in. Now, problem. Maybe I do have to cut this off because this new fuel pump is thicker unless I could figure out a way to get it in there. Got excited too soon. As you can tell, stock fuel pump is thin. New fuel pump is thick on the bottom. So I will have to grind this out anyways. But hey, at least I got a little bit more room to have to worry about the fuel pump this time around. So I'm going to take my Dremel now. I have these brackets. For this long arm, this bracket's going to work out well to put it back together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it with the Dremel. Then we'll bring it back together with a pound of plastic welded, and we'll kind of go from there. Well, I recommend a bigger cutoff wheel on the Dremel because this does go downwards, but we got our piece off. We're ready to put the fuel pump in now. Took some alcohol and some rags and cleaned the inside up as best as I can. A little bit of compressed air. Let's try putting the new fuel pump on now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide the pump over the ring. Pump should kind of be seated like this for now. We're going to take our fuel filter. Attach our fuel filter to the bottom. Pretty straightforward. It kind of just goes like this. Got the little metal piece that grips onto the bottom of the fuel pump. Push in. There you go. Feels like it's a good connection. And then we're gonna drop our pump back in there. To get these lined up, we have our the A2 right here that goes with the serial number. That's how I know how to line that up. Now you see this isn't going down all the way, so we're going to slide the pump over the little locking ledges, so this will go down to its correct spot. There you go. So just how I took it off, I just make sure I bend these tabs as far back as I can until I get all three sides over the fuel pump to kind of center the fuel pump out as such. And look at that. That's pretty much our setup. Yeah. So now we got this set. Our next step is going to be just attaching the piece looking thing back to itself. Now what I have done before was I took my soldering iron, I took a plastic filler, it could be something like this. This is plastic, or I've used a pen cap before because I saw someone else do that online. And what you do is you melt this plastic and you kind of add the filler. So instead of using solder to solder wire, you're using plastic to kind of fill that up. It worked, but when I took the fuel pump off, this was all just moving around. So hitting all the bumps and maybe the E85 ate away at that plastic, and it kind of didn't work, I guess. And so it worked temporarily, but then in the long run it didn't work. So what I ended up doing was drilling 2 holes and then using zip ties, and that held that in place. But I figured, hey, instead of using plastic zip ties, might as well try using these brackets. So whichever way you want to put this back together, it's totally up to you. You want to try the plastic solder, you want to try these brackets, you want to try something else like this plastic bonder, whatever it is, as long as you get it back together, you're good to go. Then we'll continue with the wiring. So I'm going to kind of experiment here, try the bracket out, and then see what I come up with. Just a quick thing I've noticed, I took my side cutter and I cut these flat. They kind of have pointed edges on both ends, so I kind of cut them flat, and then I moved my filter to kind of sit like this. I felt like it was the best fitment. So now when it goes in, My filter is sitting on the bottom, and all these kind of line up pretty well. You can see right there. I could get the bracket on there. Alright, this is what I have so far. I just took those little brackets I bought, took my handy dandy Dremel, and just started kind of cutting down. This one was really short. I didn't have a lot of room, so that's kind of the size I cut that. That one was obviously a long arm, so I had a little bit more room to work with. I then drilled holes in the plastic, little pilot holes, so the screws can go in easily. I left the third one alone just because, one, it's not a lot of room to work with, and two, just with those two, this pump is solid. I mean, I'm putting a lot of pressure here. That thing is not going anywhere. The new pump is seated in really nicely. The wiring, so for the factory wiring, it was kind of sitting like this. So the opposite of what I have it sitting, the wire was kind of sticking out from the front. Unfortunately, just the way the filter sits, I like how it's sitting right now. I feel like the pump is in a good spot, so the wiring might be a little twisted up. This is kind of backwards, but again, we're going to be attaching the adapter anyway. So this is how I have it. It's really solid, way better than nothing plastic welding and all that. So I recommend getting these metal brackets, and let's move forward. Next thing we're going to do is the wiring, and then we're going to attach the fitting on there and then put everything back together. For wiring, you can see the stock pump. It says the positive is this red one, this dark red wire. The negative is this brown wire. And on the new pump, positive is red, negative is white. So all we're going to do is we're going to cut this connector off the old pump since we don't need to use it. We can go this route and use the ends of this pigtail connector, but there's just way too much wiring than we need. So rather, I'm going to take my side cutters and just cut about right over here. Then off the stock fuel pump, we need to use this connector to plug back into here so we can use our factory connectors and kind of just use our factory setup. So I'm going to about go halfway over here and cut this as well. What we're going to do next is we're going to strip these two wires and then use the crimp fittings that came with our new pumps to attach them. Now what I usually like doing is I like going offset. I don't like these being next to each other. So what I'll probably do is I'll cut this shorter right over here. So then we have one crimp fitting here and the other crimp fitting down here. Just something I like doing. But obviously you can keep it like this and go like that. So I'm going to go ahead and strip these wires. I don't have my crimping tool. I think I left it at work. So I'm just going to kind of figure out with some pliers, maybe this cutting tool. But yeah, you should probably have the right crimper tool to crimp these down correctly. Alright, we want about a 1/4 of an inch sticking out on each end, just to get a better crimp. And you can see over here I kind of have no bare wire showing, and you saw the method I use, these are on there, but about a 1/4 inch, you can get them on there and move along. Alright, and the wiring is done. These two are on there solid. We could now put this fitting on. This fitting is pretty straightforward. All we gotta do is, if I remember, okay, this goes on the bottom of the barb as such. All on the bottom. It just kind of slides on there. Maybe under. There you go. I think it goes like that. And then you have a little O-ring in here. Can't tell without a light, but there's a little O-ring in there. And then this just kind of goes on and spins on. Yep, this feels right. There you go. Hold the bottom. Tighten that as much as you can so the O-ring sits. Ah, feels good. Now you will have some movement in this, which is okay. As long as the bottom is tight, you won't have any leakage. And this movement is good, so when you have to install the factory line onto this, you can make it easy for you. So, BMP fittings on there, the wiring is done. Hey, brackets are in. Our new pump is installed officially, just about. Let's get everything reversed back. We'll put, oops. So let's get our wiring through here. Wiring through here. There we go. Yes, I believe this one like this. Alright, we got our wiring all ready. Let's go ahead and bring our top over. Slide this down. This one for the fuel pump goes on the left side here. So that's going to slide in right over there. Our fuel level sensor is going to come across. And it's going to go right over here. Oops, other way. Like that. I'm going to push those in, clip those in place. And yeah, that's it. And so just to recap, one, I'm not going to mess with this and put this back on. I'm just going to chalk that up as an L. So be careful with yours. I mean, sure, I won't be able to go this high on my fuel, but it'll do. Two, I'm not running the Venturi anyways. Again, if you want to run the Venturi, there's a special way of doing it. I just feel like the pressures are better without the Venturi. You have to, you know, loop your fuel pressure back down on the bottom to fill up your bowl right here, or your bucket. And three, I'm sure there are better ways of doing this. This is the method I used. If you have any suggestions, or you saw something that I did and you think I can improve on that, or there's a better way of doing it, please just comment down below. This is all a learning experience. Like I said, I've done this once before and it's pretty successful. Let's see how it works again. I feel like this job is much cleaner. Everything else seems pretty solid. Can't forget to put this back up there. And yeah, I'm gonna just plastic weld this back on again. Aside from that, this is ready to go in the car. So I'm gonna put it in the car, start it up, check our fuel pressures, and let's make sure everything is good with this. Did end up using the plastic bond, and plastic bond did a good job. This is attached back on. Is not going to go anywhere. Yay! All right. Well, I drove the car here, so the fuel pump worked. I'm gonna start it up for you guys. Show you. Start up. Sometimes the 85 doesn't work out well, but it's running. It was smooth. Yeah, the 535 is great. I did this under $200, I think, using the stock pump and just following this video, so you can save yourself a lot of money. Again, I've ran my tank all the way down to E and never had a problem without the Venturi. Most of them are on bucket lists. I think having the bucket is better, so you can see how much fuel and stuff you have in your car. But that's essentially how you do it. Again, please give me feedback, what you think of how I installed it, how everything worked. I smell the 85, I can already smell it. And thanks for watching. Anything, just put them in the comments. Until next time, peace.